Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Social Hour. I'm Megan,
And I'm Sarah.
and this week we're going to talk about some funny topics about our middle school and high school experiences. But first, how's your week been? Do you have any new hyperfixations of the week or anything that happened?
No, I had a normal work week and it was kind of just the regular boring stuff. So nothing new to report on.
Yeah, my only exciting thing of the week was that I'm almost done making my new coloring book, which has taken like months. And so, after actually today, I'm going to finish everything up and finally submit it and then take a break because I've been drawing like a crazy person.
Yeah, you just seemed very stressful a lot. Just the past few days trying to finish your book and whatnot and get it. Because weren't you a little bit late past your deadline already to
A
begin with?
little bit, yeah, like a month. I wanted to get it out mid-September because it's fall themed, so I wanted to get it out in time. But you know what? Whatever. October and November are still technically fall, so I guess we'll just see what happens. And then hopefully I can get the Christmas one out early to make up for it, I guess.
And also too, like, yeah, it's gonna be for like this year, but like what you're trying to like build and collect up to is just like a year collection of books that you can just like use those, right? So this is still
Yeah.
building towards like your end goal for like
Yeah.
this project.
Yeah, and then my only other thing this week that's not really new, but that I've been really hyper fixated on are just my books and reading. Oh my God. I think I've read like 4 full books this week and like long ones too. I had a couple days where I just read all day long. It was crazy.
It's so funny because I feel like we are definitely, we said this last podcast, we're exploring just like different things. And I don't know. I feel like we're just both going through something where, or at least me, where like I'm not watching like any TV. And I know you're watching TV, but like you're more so like reading your books and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. And I also just more so now in the next month, there's going to be some actual stuff that like I want to watch on TV. But uh, now I just watch TV at night to go to bed, even though that's bad, but it helps
So
me.
what have you been doing instead of watching TV?
I've been watching a lot of TikTok and that that is what it is. But I've also been baking and I don't know, keeping up with just like my life and working on like myself and keeping up with my finances and working out like a meal plan with dad. We recently started HelloFresh, so hopefully that'll kind of help our eating and whatnot, eating habits.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I don't know, just haven't been drawn to the TV much.
Well, I mean, that's not a bad thing.
No, it's not, and so I'm not complaining. I kind of feel like I go through these waves and stuff, so when I am watching TV more, like, I don't feel as bad about it because I definitely go through my energetic spurts and whatnot.
Yeah, I do that with a lot of things like reading and TV and gaming. Like right now, I haven't really been playing video games like the whole time I've been gone since like July. But before that, oh my God, I was in a Minecraft phase and I was playing like all day, every day. It was crazy. But now I just haven't been playing at all.
Yeah, but do you have the capability to be able to play right now?
Yeah, that's why I bought this specific laptop is because it's a gaming laptop. It has like a gaming card in it that's pretty good. So I should be able to play fine. Okay,
Okay.
so we wanted to talk about the middle school and high school stuff because I'm 31, you're 23. We obviously had very different high school and middle school experiences, but also I moved out of the house when you were 10. So I wasn't really there for your middle school and high school experience either. And obviously, you were too young to really be there for mine. So it's kind of interesting because we're sisters, but we don't really know a whole lot about our lives during that time, each other's lives.
Yes, and with that, just like I don't know if you realize this of how much you've had an influence on me in those first 10 years that we were together because you would pick me up from school and we would go do like 7-Eleven dates and hang out all the time and whatnot. And all throughout middle school, I knew I was going to play tennis in high school. Like tennis was going to be like my thing because like my sister played and this is one thing I want to get into. I was at a total different school. Like, I wasn't even in the same
Yeah, we
school
went to all
district.
different schools,
Yes.
middle and high.
I'm happy with the way that everything turned out, but I was definitely
Yeah, I really
looked
liked my high school. I
so
had a good
highly
one.
of, like, all of that. But, okay, so getting into this, my first question for you is how many schools did you go to from, like, kindergarten to high school,
Yeah, I think
elementary
most
school?
people have elementary school, middle school, high school, but for me, I had elementary school, middle school, a second middle school, and then high school, which is kind of weird. It was like 2 grades in each middle school and then
And I think schools are starting to do that more now or, like, break up the grades differently, which is kind of weird to me. But something that you should mention with yours is you were in the same school district from what, elementary to high school you graduated, right?
yeah.
Yeah. And I started in that school district and then I went to a different school for the remainder of elementary. I stuck at the same middle school within that district that I ended elementary. I went to a different district when we moved and mom and dad got a divorce. I think that's where I ended up. So we still had, I guess, the same amount of schools, but I feel like my schooling was just way more chaotic and I don't know, making new friends and like this and that.
Yeah, I had the very typical experience where even though we did move like once, I got to do the normal pipeline that everybody else was doing from school to school to school. So you still knew all the same people throughout middle school and high school and basically got to keep my same friends. But I still went to the same school when we moved.
Oh, yeah. You're in the same area. I wish. I feel like nothing of mine was like normal. That's crazy.
Okay, so you switched schools a lot. So how did that work with like making friends and stuff like that? Like what happened with all that?
When I was in elementary school, the first one that I was at, the street we grew up on had like at least two kids in each house. And so I grew up with them the first part of my life and they were like my best friends and I went to school with them and that was like perfect. And that's I feel like kind of where you started in a sense of like having those established friends going into school with I don't know. But then my mom and our dad got a divorce and then we moved and then they put me into an academy and that first year I had made my best friend Allie and I've been best friends with her since 4th grade. And I eventually moved middle schools over same district but a different middle school to be with Allie and to do middle school together. So we did that and then high school came around and they wanted to pull me and put me back into public and Allie was going to public. She won the battle of going to the school that you went to and
She did?
yeah, and I had
That's where
to
Allie went to high school?
yeah. And
I had no
and
idea.
then I went to the rival school and so yeah. So I was I wasn't I had friends. I'm a very friendly person, but I don't have like those deep, close, like friend connections and whatnot that most people do with just like growing up in the same place. Because going to my high school, that's like a small town where you grow up together and like generations grow up together. And so everybody knows everybody. And so me coming in there, I don't know. I felt very like left out.
Oh,
Thankful
isn't
to
that when you started rowing?
and yes, that's when I started rowing because my first friend that like I made at school was Dina and she was also coming from a different district and coincidentally she was joining the rowing team. So I don't know how they got me to join, but they did and that was I don't know, I can never explain that. But and then so like Dina is now like my next like close best friend. So I don't know. I wish I had like kind of a big friend group, but there's downfalls and there's positives and negatives with it, but I'm happy with just having a select few of like close friends.
Yeah, that was the same for me though. I only had like 2 friends.
Yeah, but I feel like you always there's a handful of names that like I commonly knew of, like, oh, Megan's at so and so's house, or I don't know, still people that I remember to this day. Were they all not like big friend? Was it not a big friend group, just like random friends?
Yeah, no, I never had a big friend group. I did have two main friends, and those friends also hung out with each other. And I guess we were kind of a friend group, but I also just had friends in the neighborhood um that I would go over to sometimes, and then friends that lived close by. That was a really good thing about where we grew up. There were so many neighborhoods. Our whole town was basically just neighborhoods, and they were all so close together. You could just walk to all your friends' houses. So
Yeah.
I did have a few friends that I would go to their houses and walk there and stuff like that and hang out with them.
And how are you still friends with like any of them today? Do you still keep in contact? Like, what's your relationship like with like your high school friends or your friends just from school in general?
Yeah, I'm not friends with any of them anymore. Like, I don't talk to any of them. One of my friends, we did get together after high school at some point and got coffee or something, but we just lead such different lives. And, she's married and has a kid and all this stuff and still lives in Michigan. And so I just grew apart from all my friends. I don't talk to literally any of them anymore. I do have a few of them on Facebook and stuff, which is always fun to see what happens. But pretty much everybody from my high school just either has a ton of kids or like they're married, or most of them still all live in Michigan. And that's just not my vibe.
Yeah. And I think another thing that also played into your friendship from what I've like saw, my point of view, was like you dating your high school sweetheart for like what, most of high school? Half of high school?
Yeah, so I had my friends, and I was a little wild and crazy with my friends from probably age like 12 to 15. And then at 15, I started dating who was my high school sweetheart, and we were together for 9 years after that. So I was 15. We started dating. He didn't like that I was hanging out with those people. So I kind of stopped hanging out with them a lot. We would hang out sometimes, but he never liked when I did. And so I ended up basically just being in a really small friend group with his best friend and then his best friend's girlfriend, who I was friends with as well. So it was pretty much just like me and him and then them two. And that was the only people I hung out with after that in high school, pretty much, except for my tennis friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, and this is like a whole nother thing that I don't want to get into, but I think it's so cool about just like talking about this now, seeing or like hearing of you in that stage, and then fast forwarding through your college experiences. And then when you got into Georgia, then you were like moved away and you're experiencing new things for your own, but you were still like attached with your husband. And then you like went away, then you like I feel like cleaned up what friends you actually wanted in your life and decided who was actually important and who wasn't. Then you kind of like made those like cutoffs, and then you went to the basic training, and then I feel like you blossom into this like whole other person, and it's I don't know, it's just crazy to me.
Yeah, truly, the first time I ever had a real friend group was in the military. And it was specifically, I had a couple really close friends throughout my first part of my training. But in my second part of my training, when I lived in Texas for a couple months, I had a really good friend group. And there was 5 of us, and we were like inseparable. We all did everything together. We hung out every night. We had game nights. We drove to class together. That was really cool. That was the first time I ever had my own friend group. And that really changed me because I don't know, just the connections I made with those people was like so amazing.
Yeah, and I think I could say the same for myself with going to college and just like joining the row or coming on being on the rowing team with my group of recruits. Like that was like the best thing that I could have wanted of like a friend group and whatnot. And I'm still friends with them, but I don't talk to them like every day. But yeah, I'm happy like we both got those good like friend group experiences.
Yeah, and you just reminded me, I guess I did have a little bit of a friend group before the military when I was in college for my first year right after high school that I totally forgot about because I don't talk to any of them anymore. But they were all my bridesmaids when I got married. And it was like my college roommates. I had 3 roommates. and we all got along really well, and I was really close with them, especially one of them. But my friend group in college basically just became all of their friends. I was friends with my roommates and then all of their friends, and they were all just very religious. And so somehow, as an atheist, I ended up in this super religious friend group, but I didn't go to church with them or anything like that. So that was just kind of a weird dynamic. I got along really well with them, but it still wasn't really like my people, you know?
Right, and I think that was, like, in between you going from high school to Georgia. So that was just, like, I feel like you were almost appeasing people, just doing what you thought was
Yeah,
the
but I think
best.
if I would have stayed in that college, those people probably may have become like my lifetime friends, you know, which is so weird to think about. But I was only there for a year because they're all still friends with each other. And I see them on Facebook and stuff like that, and they all have kids and whatnot.
Yeah, that's wild. Okay, backtracking a little bit back to, like, school. I have a question on, like, school events. Were you, like, comfortable just, like, if you had a pep assembly one day just to, like, go and experience it? Was that something that, like,
Yeah,
excited
I
you?
feel like you're only asking this because you have a lot of anxiety about them.
Yeah, I would call mom and dad to, like, let me go home because it was, like, the last part of the day or whatever, and so I just, like, who was I gonna sit with? Like, most of my friends were in, like, the band and stuff like that, so they were doing their own thing, and, like, I don't know, it was just nerve-wracking.
I don't remember having that kind of social anxiety in school, which is weird. I did have anxiety about certain things like the first day of school or if I could find my locker and just the preparations, I think, for school. But the social part of it, it's really weird because I am introverted and I didn't have a ton of friends, but I don't remember being super anxious about stuff like that.
Yeah, and that, like, surprises me, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but I
Yeah.
don't know. I thought it would be something that you'd be able to relate to.
I would be really, really nervous on the first day of school of where I was going to sit for lunch because we had separate lunches, like maybe 3 different lunches. And if I didn't have my 1 or 2 people in that lunch, I would freak out like, who am I going to sit with? So I feel like every year, the first day of school was really stressful and that social anxiety, which I think is totally normal and that doesn't really count. But that first day of school, you try to find who you're going to sit with. And then the rest of the year is like, whatever, you know?
Yeah, and I get that, and I feel like with me being, like, prepared and whatnot, I felt like I prepared myself, like, to the max as much as I could, but, like, that was another one of my questions is, like, school lunches. Is the first day of high school, we had, like, a half day or whatever, and one of my classes was an art class, and I've always been able to connect with teachers. I instantly connected with my art teacher. I ate lunch in the art room for the
Oh my god,
first.
you're just like Charlie from Heartstopper. He would always eat this lunch in the art room.
Yeah, and I don't know why that makes me wanna cry right now thinking of, like, a high schooler having to do that, but I don't know, but that's how I found. So this is a funny story because I was just eating lunch in there when she had, like, a normal class, and so she had a class of, like, seniors. Lo and behold, I'm some new girl that's sitting next to the senior high school hockey team captain, and my ride ended up, like, crashing his car one day, who was my neighbor, and so I didn't have a ride. I asked him to take me to school after he had just broken up with his, like, girlfriend.
This is literally a rom-com.
No, literally, and, like, I but the thing is he was best friends with, like, one of, like, Dina's close, like, sisters, basically, and so,
Yeah.
like, that also, like, kind of, like, connected us, but, yeah, thinking about it now, like, what I went through, like, I'm ballsy in, like, some aspects, but also, like, very timid and yeah. So
Yeah,
and
I think something about us that's always been interesting to me is it's almost like we're so similar because we experience the same things, like, let's say, social anxiety, but we never experience them in the same way. It's always like what bothers you doesn't bother me and vice versa. And so it's always so interesting to hear about these kind of things because it's the opposite, but it's also similar, you know?
yeah, I agree. So that's why it kind of took me a little when, like, you said you were fine for, like, assemblies and whatnot. But so moving from in, like, side activities to, like, extracurricular activities, did you you went to like the football games?
I'm trying to remember. I feel like I would go to some. I would go to like a couple. I didn't go every Friday or anything like that. I remember just going to a few and that was fun. Um I almost did I did all the high school things, but I would only do them a couple times. So it's like I went to each of the dances, but I only went to one dance a year and it was a different one. But I never went to more than one in a year. And I would go to like one or two football games a year and then that was pretty much it.
Gotcha. See, I would um I think I maybe went to one football game, maybe one or two. And that was like I had to be with like the group of people I was going to be with. Like most of the time it was like a good friend of mine and like her boyfriend, and her boyfriend just like I don't know, just I was like with them the whole time. And but one thing that I loved, and I had a really good friend to do this because her boyfriend was on the hockey team. I love hockey. So I think I went to almost every hockey game that like the school had, like home, away. Like I used to love to drive. And so it was like me and my one friend just taking on like all of the games. And that was like a lot of fun. But
I went to
dances,
one.
well, we were very good at hockey. Like, hockey was, like, our thing.
Oh, yeah, our thing was football for sure.
Yeah, we weren't very good at football. But dances, I didn't go. I don't even know, like, what I think I maybe went to 3. I think I went to 4. I went to 2 proms and then 1 homecoming and 1, like, snowball dance or whatever,
I
but
was gonna say the snowball dance too, but I didn't know if that was a thing. I wasn't sure if that was a thing everywhere or if that was just a certain dance that we had.
okay, so we need to, like, backtrack a little bit. Okay, so the beginning of the year, homecoming. We obviously
Yeah.
have, like, Spirit Week and all of that.
Ooh, yeah, that was
You
fun.
decorate the halls. Correct me if, like, you guys did anything different. And, we, like, had different, I don't know, spirit thing every single day that we would dress up as. And one thing that I know my school did that was very different is for homecoming queen. We had, like, a whole ass pageant to pick our homecoming queen. Like, we had, um you got, like, nominated, and then, like, however many girls were nominated, and then they all went on t into, like, the auditorium, and they did, like, questions. They did, like, a serious question, they did a lighthearted question. There was a dance, and then there was a dance with a guy, and then there were judges, and then the
It's like
judges.
Vampire Diaries,
Yeah, for, what's it called?
the Founders Day ball.
Yes, and
They
so
had to
then
dance
they would pick,
to
like,
pick
the court,
people.
then the court would be established, and then on the Friday night football game, the school would pick there would be certain amount of points that would be allocated from the pageant, but then, like, the rest of the school would, like, be able to pick. But isn't
Did you
that
have
s
homecoming parades though? Because that's what we did. We had a homecoming parade, and each person would make a float, and then they would all come in, and then they would announce the winner.
No, they announced the winner on the football field, but
Yeah.
everybody that was nominated from the judges, they got to be on the floats and in the cars.
Yeah, that's how it was for us too.
Yeah, but just the pageant part was so weird. Would you have done it? Have you ever been
No,
nominated?
I don't even know. I don't
Oh,
even know how you would do that.
well,
I never
people just
wanted to.
nominate you. It
I
was
don't even remember ever voting or anything like that. I don't really remember anything about queens from anything.
so, my senior year, Alexis, my other super close best friend that I, um, met from rowing, she was, like, my main best friend in high school. She was on the court for homecoming queen, but she didn't get it. But then her senior year for senior year prom, my date and Alexis won king and queen. How cool is that?
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was more on the nerdy side in high school. I didn't really have like a big group of friends, but I kind of just like, I don't know, talked to whoever that was in my class or anything like that. But who I sat with at lunch throughout high school was my AP class friends. It was like all the nerdy kids at one table, and especially my AP Calc. It's always good when you have a good class right before lunch, and then you all go to lunch together. So that's kind of what happened. Is I had these friends in AP Calc, and we would go to lunch together, and then we would play euchre all lunch period every single day, which euchre is like a really popular card game in Michigan.
I would say because we had trimesters, so we had like 3 different like
Yeah, we did
changes.
too.
Oh, you had tries too?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I
In
thought
high school,
I feel like they're at semesters now at high school.
they change all the time.
Yeah.
They
Um,
always go back and forth.
but every time the whole change up would come, I would have this big like anxiety thing. And did you have open lunch or closed lunch?
Closed. We weren't allowed to leave.
Oh, yeah, neither were we. That's
Also,
interesting.
we had our lunchroom where it was like all the lunch tables that are long ones in a row and stuff like that. And then there was this other area that was like surrounded by windows, and it was these little circle tables, which fit like 6 to 8 people or something. But there were not that many, and it was in the nicer area. So that was only like for the seniors. And I remember feeling so cool when we got to sit at those tables.
We had the senior cafe too that
Really?
only the seniors could sit in.
It was
But
like an unspoken rule.
yeah, it was an unspoken rule, but it was like this little cafe that we like breakfast would be served in, and they had like these cutesy little like chairs and tables like a coffee shop. That was really cute.
Do you
Oh,
have any embarrassing moments that you can remember from school?
so I have one that is so embarrassing, and it's literally
I think
just
I
like
know this.
my nerves got the best of me. Um, it was like one of my first business classes, which this teacher that I had, he was like my favorite teacher throughout the whole school. Um, it was like first day of class, entrepreneurship. We were all at a computer lab. We had all like wheeled our chairs to a big circle so everybody's like intertwined and whatnot. And I wasn't like on like what I thought nervous at all, but my stomach was hurting so bad.
Also, keep this really broad because you're gonna make me
Yeah.
nauseous.
And all of a sudden I had to go. No, I didn't have to go. I had to throw up. So
Yeah, thorough.
like jumped out of my seat. I was like jumping over all of these chairs and whatnot. And then I tried to get to the door to open up the handle, and it wasn't opening. So all I heard was my teacher say, "Open up the door for her." And then somebody opened it, and I ran to the bathroom. It was a half day. We only had like 45 minutes left. I went to the office, and they were like, "Come on, just stay." I was like, "I'm going." And so I called my mom and I went home. But
I thought you threw up on the door handle too
well, I didn't
in
want to
front
tell
of
you that. But yeah, I threw up down the hallway, running
I
down the
know, but
hallway.
that's what makes it so embarrassing. You didn't make it to the bathroom. You
No,
threw up everywhere.
I was dry heaving. I was dry heaving, like getting out of the door.
Okay, that's enough.
Yeah. And I was trying to keep it simple. But yeah, so that's my embarrassing story that I can laugh about
Um,
now. But do you have anything in particular?
I can't think of anything, which I know I had to have had embarrassing moments, but I literally can't think of anything. I don't know. I feel like I probably just blocked it out.
You probably did. Okay. So kind of getting back to like the school aspect of it. You said a few times that you were a nerd. So with that, you were kind of like, what, academically smart? It was easy for
Yeah,
you.
yeah, I was very naturally good at school.
Yeah, that's something I wish I had. I feel like in first and second grade, I was thriving, and then it just kind of went
First and second grade.
extremely downhill.
I was definitely a nerd even from kindergarten, first grade. We had the AR reading system or whatever where you could read books and then take quizzes and get points. I'm pretty sure I was first place like almost every year or if not every year in elementary school. I remember winning the spelling bee in second grade and I won a dictionary. I was a little nerd for sure.
I remember those AR points, and I remember my friends just sitting next to my side, one on each side, helping me through each of those quizzes to be able to get just enough points to be able to make those parties every month. Like I
Yeah.
was passing by whatever the saying is. So, going on from that, how was getting into college for you? Did mom and dad help you a lot, or was it kind of like you?
I remember not knowing where I wanted to go to college. I had no idea where to even apply. It seemed like everybody else was like, I want to go to this school and I want to go to this school. And I didn't really care to go to any of the huge schools like University of Michigan or Michigan State or anything like that. A lot of people would be going to like Central or Northern or Eastern. Um, I guess I probably just didn't know what I wanted to do in school. So I just had a harder time choosing. But I remember going to see the campus of Grand Valley and I loved it so much. It was a big school, I guess, but the actual campus was very small. And so it was felt like just such a cute little tight knit community. And so I applied there and then I got in and I went there. I mean,
Okay,
I
so
don't know.
but then okay, so here another unique experience that I think is going to be different. You were accepted, like you got early acceptance, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't get accepted until I almost graduated high school because of how bad my grades were. And I was
And then you
going,
got an athletic admission, right?
well, I thought I was going to be accepted well before because I had the athletic like admission, but no. Like I was sweating bricks like up until the day I graduated to like be able to know whether or not I was actually going to Michigan State. That was really
Yeah,
scary.
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's wild.
What about your majors? Did you always have the same major? Did you start with special education?
I knew I always wanted to be a teacher, and so that's what I said probably going into high school. And then I remember like once high school hit and I told people I wanted to be a teacher and whatnot, they just like had that like look to them.
Are you sure?
Yeah, and that whole thing. And my business teacher was one who he's a teacher himself, and he was like giving me like that reaction. And so from then on, I had kind of said that I wanted to go the business route, and then I had taken all like business classes essentially in high school that I could for extracurricular. But then last minute when it came down to picking my major, I knew it was going to be special education, so that's what I ended up
Mm,
doing.
I've changed mine a lot. I did not know what I wanted to do. I started out with psychology.
Yeah, you did a lot. You so I think deep down the ultimate reason why I wanted to do special education was to like more so learn about myself and ways that I can like help myself and stuff like that because I never felt normal, and now I know like things about myself that like make me feel that way, but I don't want to like be a special education teacher is like the thing. But what were your series of like majors that you wanted to be?
Well, I always just knew that I wanted to help people. That was what I always would say. Like, I don't know, I just want to help people. So I thought being a therapist would be a good way to do that. So I was going to school for psychology because I kind of wanted to be a therapist. But then I was like, it just didn't really click and stuff like that. And then I changed to nursing because just the whole job security thing. And basically everybody talked me into it. So I was nursing for just a tiny bit. And then I was also elementary education, and then I was elementary education for a while. And also, when I was in Georgia, I went to school for a bit and I was elementary education. And then, actually, when I moved back to Michigan and I was going to start school again, I was still education until the very last minute, a couple weeks before school. I called them and I changed to business and marketing. You look like you're about to cry.
I know you broke my heart with that. I was so excited. I was so excited to be on the same path, but I'm even more stoked about where we're at right now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it worked out so well. There's no way I'd be able to be a teacher even just for the fact that you're literally stuck in one place. Like, there's no way I could ever do that. I
Uh,
need a job where I can move around and do whatever I want, you know?
yeah, that definitely keeps you grounded in one place, especially for the length of the schooling there at state.
Yeah, so I didn't know what I wanted to do for a long time, and that was actually why I joined the Air Force, literally was because I didn't know what I wanted to do with college, and I felt like I was wasting money, and then I decided I could have 6 years in the military to figure it out, and then afterwards, they would pay for school, so which is funny because after the 6 years, I still didn't know what I wanted to do, but I
Yeah,
figured it out.
you always do. Okay, so what was like the vibes in your just like schooling experience? Like when did you guys start dabbling into like not being as innocent and drinking and things like that? Cuz we definitely have different.
It was it was middle school for sure. I was probably like 12 and 13 when it was like really bad. Like I had a couple friends. Actually, all my friends had older brothers. And I think that's what really got me because their brothers were at least a few years older than them. So every time I would hang out with any of my friends, it was always their older brothers and then their older brothers' friends. And they had things like alcohol and cigarettes and weed. And I mean, we were there. So I was like 13, smoking cigarettes, smoking weed.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, when did you have your first kiss? 12, 13,
I was 12. Yeah.
12.
It was actually a boy like 2 streets over.
Gotcha. And like that continued like all throughout high school for
What continued?
like that group, just the drinking and the partying and like all of that stuff.
Well, no, like I said, when I met my ex when I was 15, he didn't like any of that. So basically, I became a goody two shoes after that. Like once I was starting to get together with him, all of a sudden I was like the poster child for goody two shoes. I
Right.
didn't do any of that.
So for me, I would say I was innocent for a long, long time. And I didn't really like drink and I didn't smoke or do anything probably until I met Alexis. And then she kind of like opened up like my eyes to all of that, which was probably sophomore
High school.
year of high school. I did not like smoking and I was very like against that. And I didn't like vape or smoke weed or anything. But then Alexis got me into like edibles and I realized I had liked those. And so that was like kind of what I did in high school. But then more towards like the end of like senior or probably junior year, end of junior year and beginning of senior year, I knew I was going to be on the rowing team at Michigan State. So I was not going to party or do any of that like in college and I was planning on doing that. And so I got like my partying phase out then and I was up at state. Boy, it feels like every other weekend, if not like every weekend, visiting friends and just like hanging out and like going to parties and whatnot. And
Yeah.
like,
So when you were in high school, you were going out to the colleges and going to parties and stuff. I never did that. I never visited a college or anything when I was in high school.
wow, that's crazy to think about. I didn't even think of it like that.
So we had the opposite. I did like the younger version of the bad rebel stuff. And then once you got to high school, which was the opposite, once I got to high school, it switched. Once you got to high school, it switched the other way.
Yeah, but I think what's the same about the both of us is like we've been there and we've done that and like don't like to do that. I feel
Yeah, but
like
I never had a party phase though. And I still don't really like partying.
yeah, I guess I don't know. I'm not a big like party or anything. I'd rather be at home, a homebody.
What about the vibe with like boys? Were you boy crazy? Did you have a lot of crushes?
When I was younger, I feel like you guys were very like nervy for me because I was very boy crazy, like at an unreasonably young age. But like once I got into in middle school, I like dated this guy because Allie was dating like his best friend, so like that was that. But I've never had like a boyfriend. I was when I say innocent, like innocent in that regards. Like I didn't even have my first kiss until I was 18, 17 or 18.
Wow.
So yeah, that's like crazy. But then quickly progress like from there. Yeah, I don't know. I was just and it wasn't like I don't want to kiss a boy because like that's like gross or whatever. It was I was nervous. I was so unbelievably nervous. It was
Yeah,
like
I think what we're grasping is that you had really bad social anxiety for your whole life, and I didn't even realize that you've always had that. I almost thought your social anxiety was like a recent thing, honestly. I didn't realize you've always been like that.
yeah. And like honestly now I feel like well, I would say probably getting into like college my social anxiety was like better. And now so like I'm getting a little bit more of like social anxiety just when it like comes to traveling and whatnot. But that's something like I'm working on. But yeah, I've always definitely had that.
I always had a boyfriend from 5th grade on. I always had a boyfriend, and I was boy crazy. And it was like one boy for 3 months, one boy for 8 months, this and that, and like, oh my god, from age probably 12 to 15 or whatever. Oh my god, I had so many boyfriends. I was boy crazy.
Yeah, and I've yeah, never had a boyfriend. But
So
I definitely had crushes on, like, people at school, and what is, like, also kind of sad is, like, when I was younger, especially when I was younger, you could just tell, like, whatever, like, my, like, emotion was, and my face would get so red whenever I was, like,
oh my god, me
flustered
too.
or embarrassed, and so
Oh,
guys would, like, use that to, like, their advantage and not, like, make fun of me, but just, like, I
oh,
don't
I
know,
got made fun of for sure for the
string me
blushing.
along and just, like, play me in, like, tiny, like, ways that's just, like, so messed up, and, yeah, that definitely also, like, kept me closed off a lot because they would, like I don't know. It was just mean.
One of the funny things when I was preparing for this episode that I wanted to tell you about was that when I was younger, I used to write letters to my future self, and I have them. Like, I have them still. So, like, I have some from when I was like 13 and 15 actually that I brought for you today.
You've never read them?
No, I
Or
read
you
them when I was 18. I had a big like stop sign on it. Stop, don't read these until you're 18. But I used to write my future self letters. It's so funny.
Oh
But
my god.
yeah, so like speaking of the boy crazy thing, I thought this was really funny. So one of the little things says, "My boyfriend is," and then it says his name. "He's the first boy I have ever loved, so hopefully you're still going out with him. If you're not, here's his phone number. You should really call him." I was so delusional. I literally was like, "Oh,
Oh my god.
you're going to want this phone number when you're older." But another one that I thought was really funny. Hold on. There's this
You
quote.
should
It says,
call him.
well, basically, I liked this boy and then he got a girlfriend or something. I think he had a girlfriend the whole time. So I said, he's actually a really big asshole, but I just couldn't see it. What I've learned is that no matter how perfect a guy may seem, they all lie.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that so dramatic?
Yes. That's so funny.
Yeah, but no, this is really funny. So, after the one I said was the first boy I ever loved, I have another letter and it says, "I'm now currently dating this person." And I probably said the same thing about the last boyfriend back as 13-year-old Megan, but I think I love this one.
Oh my
I can
gosh.
honestly say I haven't been happier with any other boyfriend, and I can tell he really cares about me. I mean, sure, when we're around certain people, he acts very different. But everybody treats their girlfriend differently around their friends. I like it best when we're alone.
Oh my god, that's so sad.
So embarrassing.
Oh my gosh,
Oh my God.
that's so sad, but it's so funny that
Isn't
you
that
don't
so funny?
Yeah.
So that was like the vibe of my childhood. I was always boy crazy like that. And I was like, thought I was in love every single time. It was so funny.
Yeah, no, and I just could not understand people who were like that because, like, in just and it not in, like, a negative way, just, like, an anxiety way, like, how can you, like, do that? Because like, all of
Yeah,
my
I don't
friends were
know.
always in relationships and whatnot, and I've always just been the single one.
I don't know. I would literally sneak out of the house at night to go to boys' houses. I remember like walking in the cold snow and sneaking into this boy's window because he lived in the basement. And so I snuck down there and we just like made out.
Yeah, no, the only sneaking out I've ever done was when I was 20 during COVID, and I went
20.
to Taco Bell with Allie during the quarantine. I had to
Oh,
take my 18-year-old dog with me because he wouldn't shut up if I wasn't with him, so we had to take the person who would rat me out. It was and we thought that
I'm
went really
dying that you
bad.
said you had to sneak out at 20. That's so funny.
Yeah, literally.
I
No,
was like
for real.
12. Dad said that I couldn't go to this boy's birthday party because I think his parents weren't going to be home or something. And he was like my boyfriend at the time or whatever. It was the one 2 streets over. It was my first kiss. And dad said I couldn't go to the birthday party. And I snuck out and went anyway.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
one time, Allie came over and we were still at the old house, and, you know that park that was, like a 15 or 20-minute walk away?
Yeah.
Well, Allie and I asked dad if we could go to the park, and he had said no, but we took a bike and we went anyways, and halfway there, we see dad's truck driving behind us. It was the worst that he was
That is the
so
most
mad.
dad thing to do. That's so he's like, "Oh, you think I don't know what you're doing?"
He was so mad. Oh.
Oh my god. Do you remember when dad well, I don't you would only know this from a story, but dad did the thing to me where he said, "I know what you did." And he was like, "It would be just best if you came clean." But he was just joking. He didn't actually have anything on me, but he was playing it up and he was like, "It's always best to be honest. I know what you did. Just tell me about it and I won't be mad. You won't be in trouble." And he was going on and on. And like, I was such a guilty little kid. I was like, I have to tell him or whatever. So I think I came clean and I was like, when I went to the sleepover the other night, we each had a Mike's Hard Lemonade. And I was like panicking, like he was gonna freak out.
Oh my gosh, I definitely remember hearing that story, but that's
Yeah.
literally something that you would do.
I know, I was probably like 14 or something.
The thing would be is he would guilt trip it out of you, and you would just unintentionally tell you on yourself, but then me, I would be so proud that I did it that I would just tell on myself and be like, "Guess what I did?"
What was the game that you had? Are we gonna have time for it?
Oh, yeah, we should have time for it. Today's game is going to be kind of a do you remember, and, it's gonna be, like, school edition, primarily elementary school. So, do you remember Smentals? Were those in, like, your school experience? The
Um,
smelly pencils that smelled like, cotton candy and bubble gum, and they were in little tubes?
I remember the smelly markers.
Oh, yeah, okay, so I feel like that was maybe your
Yeah.
generation, and then I had the Spencels, and then we also had, like, Silly Bands. Do you remember
Yeah, I
Silly Bands?
remember Silly Bands.
Yeah. I've I saw somebody on TikTok recently, she's giving those away for, like, a
Oh,
trick or
wait,
treat.
hold on. Were those the ones that were in shapes and they were really stretchy?
Yeah, and they went around your wrist.
Oh, yeah, that was your generation. We had this other one, like snap bracelets, and they were like a tube that's like it was like a tube of silicone or something, but all the colors were supposed to mean something. Like one was a kiss and one was this or whatever. And if you snapped it, like broke it, then that would mean that you had to do that thing or that you did. So it was like if your bracelet broke or something.
Oh, that's
That was like a thing. But
interesting.
people would wear all these like different color on their arms.
Dang. Um, do you remember you would buy me these from, like, your school store? They were, like, the suckers with just, like, the super big, like they looked like a ball on top, they're large.
Yeah, they had a ton of different flavors.
Yeah, that was really cool.
They have those at a lot of, like, tourist stores and stuff.
Yeah, I've seen them definitely outside of places like a school store. Do you remember Bosco sticks? Like, the bread with the cheese in the middle and marinara sauce?
No, I don't think so.
Dang, that's, like I feel like everybody remembers that.
I remember getting, I think we had, like, soft pretzels or something, and that was, like, the exciting thing to get at school.
Yeah, well, I think we were in between generations of when Michelle Obama went into effect, and, like,
Well,
literally
Bosco sticks aren't healthy.
yeah, but w even when we got Bosco sticks, it was, like, very rare. Um, okay, so moving on. Do you remember the big colorful parachute in elementary school?
And
That
you would sit under it. That was
yeah,
fun.
that was a lot of fun. And then, like, the scooters in gym.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think everything in gym class from elementary school was really cute and nostalgic.
Yeah, and so just, like, colorful. Do you
Did
remember
you have a field day?
Yep, field day was so
Yeah.
much fun. Do you remember I don't know if it was called this, but, like, the PE, the physical standards fitness test or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you had to, like, do a bunch of, like, random stuff, though that was
The
the
one that I hated the most was when you had to put your feet in this thing and then you had to reach forward and try to touch your toes. Oh my god, and it hurt your hamstrings so much. I hated that.
Yeah, I hated that too. One time when I was in 5th grade, I was doing the PE test with, like, a boy, and I was 1 push-up short from, like, hitting, like, the presidential instead of, like, the lower one,
Yeah.
and, like, he looked at me, and I looked at him, And he was like, "You got it." And I was like, "Yay."
That sounds like the Air Force when you're doing your PT test and you're counting each other's push-ups and you're like one push-up away from failing and they're like, "Yeah, she got this." I'm like, "Thank you so much."
For real. For real though. Yeah. Okay, that was it. That is all that I had for this game.
All right. Well, I think that's all we have for today. Thank you guys for joining us with all of our school nostalgia. We'll see you next time.
Bye.